first you, honorable members, for your attendance to this meeting of the Public Enterprise Portfolio Committee. Also to our guests, including Safcol, the Department of Public Enterprise, supposed to be led by the minister or the acting DG or the deputy minister. I don't know. I think the apologies will be explaining who is here, who is not supposed to be here, who is supposed to have tendered an apology. Also, the only apology that I have is that Mr. Muchumi, who is our secretary, is writing exams today. He is not going to be part of our meeting. He is replaced by Ms. Cele, who always come to his position. The secretary who will be presenting us with apologies will be Ms. Cele today. Ms. Cele, can you help us with the apologies and the people that are here?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members. The apologies that I received from the Portfolio Committee is from Mr. Ngwangwa. The apologies that I received from DPE is the minister. He is attending the cabinet meeting. The delegation, the DPE delegation is led by the deputy minister and Donald Kadibeni, Chief Director, Gidinweli Mabena, Director for Forestry and Enterprises, Mushala Tabuti, Director and Financial Analyst. The delegation from Safcol is led by Ms. Mkita Zatumuloyi, board member and acting chair, as well as the board members. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cele. Welcome, Deputy Minister and the department, and welcome to Safcol acting chairperson and the CEO and the entire team. I could see there is a lot of people from Safcol. You all welcome. Honorable members, that is the delegation and the people that attended our meeting. Because today we also have to attend the medium-term budget, which is going to be presented by Minister of Finance at 2 o'clock, not at 3 as it's supposed to. Therefore, it means our meeting will have to be mindful. People might be mindful that at 2, we're all supposed to be in town hall. Therefore, we must be contributing, but I'm not trying to suggest that let's not engage the report extensively. We have to do that, but also we must be mindful that by 2 o'clock, we must be seated waiting for the minister to address the nation and the parliament. Members, we are expecting Safcol to make a presentation on its annual statement. As we normally do, we will ask the Deputy Minister to make an overview, and then therefore the presenter comes thereafter. Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Greetings to the honorable members of the committee and the entire delegation we have. Over and above, Chair, the apologies. Maybe the acting chair will talk to the absence in today's meeting of Mr. Mpho Makwana. Perhaps I would have said, honorable members already are aware that the chair of Safcol has recently been appointed chair of the board of ESCOM. It's a matter that the ministry is still seized with insofar as what will be the interim measures put in place, given the fact that the portfolio at ESCOM is quite demanding, and that it is at a particular stage for which there is a very, very intense focus that needs to be put there, a matter that may impact somewhat the role Mr. Mpo is to play at Safcol as expected. So it's a matter that we'll come back to the committee on insofar as what are the interim measures to be put. Finally, also, what is going to be the final state insofar as the chairing of the board. Perhaps for just a few comments, the year under review for which we're going to receive the report, we're seeing a lot of improvements. This is one of the more stable and promising entities of the stable that we look after, with for quite a period of time, the prospects of being able to declare dividends at the end of the year. The profit environment is improving. So we're looking to the consolidation of that going forward. So Chair, without much ado, on behalf of the board, the acting chair for this meeting, I'm sure would make a few remarks, then invite the team to make further details in terms of the report as presented. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Can we get the presentation from the Safcol delegation, perhaps starting with the chair?
Thank you, Chair.
I think we lost her. Deputy Minister, what do we do?
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible now, but you just disappeared after you started. We can see you now.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. Okay, apologies. So I think today is a very special day for us. As Safcol, we are very proud of the results that we have managed to achieve as the team at Safcol. We've had obviously our challenges along the way, and we still have some work that we need to do to fully realize our 50-50 strategy. But these results are an indication that we are moving in the right direction. The CEO and the CFO will lead the discussions and give us more detail on the results. But what you'll see today is a result of one, a positive economic environment coming out of the global pandemic, which pushed up demand for our products, a strong commitment and implementation of our strategy, and the hard work that's been put in by the team on the ground, management and the staff alike. And the results, of course, we wouldn't have these results without the support that we continuously receive from our shareholder, being the Department of Public Enterprises, the Deputy Minister, the Minister, and the staff that support us continuously, and the oversight that we get from this committee. So we thank you very much for this opportunity. And I'll now hand over to the CEO and the team to take us through the detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair, good morning, and good morning to honorable members. Deputy Minister, good morning, and colleagues. Chair, Chair, should I share or the presentation will be shared from your side?
Come again?
Should I share the presentation from my side or it will be shared from your side?
No, you're supposed to share from side, but if you have not prepared that, I will ask the Ms. Tyler to do so.
Chair, the CEO and Vishal have been given the hosting rights. They can actually share from their side.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll share from my side. Chair, can I confirm that it's visible?
Yes, it's visible. Yeah, it's visible.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think it's already said by Deputy Minister and Acting Chair that the past financial year, the year under review, was a good year for Safcol in terms of performance. But our performance didn't go without challenges. So I always said to the colleagues that if we don't have challenges, we must worry. But I'll go through the presentations. My colleagues will be around.
I'm in a meeting, a visual meeting. But you can quickly talk. Madam Chair.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Chair, I was just checking the slides.
Proceed,
I think they're better now.
you have, yes, so we have the full view of the slides.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Minister. I'll cover the 8 areas, and the last one will just be the challenges that we'll talk through. And about this report, I think it's important that we highlight the value creation that Safcol has to offer, and we have been able to deliver that this past financial year, and we're hoping to continue with the performance, or even better, the performance. And the scope of this report covers the performance of the business broadly, not only financially, but even in social and human areas. So those areas will be covered. We thought in terms of the overview of the company, we know Safcol and its subsidiaries, but we thought we should focus mostly on the minorities, the 4 companies where Safcol owns shares, because it's been coming up a lot, and we haven't made much progress. We are working on the transfer of the shares in these companies, which is Amatole, MTO, and Singesi, to transfer these shares, because we hold in the shares for communities. But we're just waiting for the communities to be identified by Land Commission and Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. With that done, then we'll be able to transfer the shares. So we're just waiting for that process to conclude. In terms of our operations haven't changed. We still operate mainly in KLF area, which is the operations in South Africa. We manage 189,000 hectares of forestry land, of which 121 is plantable. And we try our best to manage this asset sustainably. And we have operations in Mozambique, in Ifloma, where we own 80%, or we hold 80% of that business. That business is fully operational. We just have to make sure that the infrastructure and the equipment, the technology is modernized, because the company is sitting with old infrastructure and old equipment. We are busy with that process, and within KLF as well, we're busy with that process of modernization. And these are the areas where we operate. We have the two regions here at home. We have the North region, which starts from Graskop area all the way to Makado, through Zanin and Venda. And we have the South region that starts from Sabi all the way down to Northern KZN and Ngome. And our strategy, which is key to us, for us to succeed on our route, we have to be able to monitor the implementation of our strategy closely. We have a roadmap that guides us in terms of whether we are moving in the right direction in the execution of the strategy. And we have the phases, and phase one of the strategy we have completed, which is to stabilize the business in terms of processes, in terms of culture, working culture, in terms of our overall systems, how we do business. And that we have been able to complete that. And with that, we set the foundation to really launch our 50-50 strategy. That says 50% of the revenue should be coming from non-locked revenue. And we can't achieve the successful execution of the strategy unless our customers are happy and satisfied with our working together. Chair, if I can mention that for us to successfully implement phase 3 of the strategy, which is growth through expansion, we need to access more plantable land. We are restricted currently, as I mentioned, that 129,000 hectares of land is not enough for us to be able to execute the strategy of Safcol. That is to support our own internal business and support the industry and support the transformation of the forestry sector. So we need more plantable land so that we can meet this through key areas, which is Safcol sustainability, our support to industry for competitiveness, and to ensure that we create opportunities for transformation in the sector. Horizontal integration is key so that we beneficiate the tree. After having waited for 25 years, we should be able to beneficiate at least 95% of the tree. And for us to get to phase 3 successfully, we have to have a team of Safcol employees with high values-based culture that is geared around performance. So that's what we are driving now, and we're hoping that with that, we should be able to achieve the intended end goal for Safcol, that Safcol should be the pride of the country. In terms of the shareholder compact, as contracted between Safcol and the department, we achieved 86% of the shareholders' compact targets. The other 14% we missed. We still believe that in the future, we should be moving towards 100%. And other areas which are really important for us is the financial health of the business. The balance sheet has grown and continues to grow. Profitability has improved drastically. Our cash position improved drastically as well, which are good signs that we are moving in the right direction. And for us in the forestry space, safety is key. We want everyone that comes to work should be able to go back home in the state that they left home, or in a better state, having been motivated at work. We don't want people to be injured or lose their lives when they have come to work. We know that especially with the harvesting space of our business, it's a risky business, but we have to make sure that we uphold high standards of safety. And we have managed to do that. And we managed to, for the 25th year in succession, get our FSC certification, which makes Safcol the oldest certified company in the continent, which is a great achievement for us. And FSC certification means we are recognized globally that we are managing the asset or the plantations sustainably so that the next generations can find the asset in a good state. And we look after the communities neighboring our plantations. Risk is important to us to keep an eye on, because unless we identify the risks in the business and derive or develop mitigations so that they don't realize, because if the risks realize, it means we may not be able to achieve some of the objectives. So we manage our risk through our risk management framework, which is working very well for us. And in terms of the frequency of injuries at work, we achieved the lowest performance in terms of number of occurrences than any other year that we have started working on this DFR figures, which for us says there's a good thing we are doing in the safety space. The NOSA audit also came out very positive for us. It shows that we are working well, and we intend to improve from where we are. The people are key for us to succeed in executing the strategy. If the people are not performing, or if the people are of low morale, or if the people are unhealthy or sick, all those, whether it's emotionally or physically, all those leads to a successful company if those are addressed. But if we don't address those, then we are going to have a performing business. So the quick highlights that we pick up from the people space: we introduced medical aid in Safcol, which we thought was really very important, critical for the employees in the past financial year. And we invested in training, 16 million rands in training. And in bursaries, which obviously bursaries will look for people across the country. We spent 4 million this past financial year. And return on investment on human capital, we improved from 10% to 94%, which says the colleagues at Safcol are delivering value. And we have to continue doing that and do much of that. And the other area which is important for us is the wellness space, that is people condition and health, and employment equity, which we monitoring closely. And both of those areas we fared very well, and we have to continue with that kind of good work. And the other key important pillar for us, apart from the commercial aspect, it's our relationship with all stakeholders. And communities are key to us because the communities are neighboring our operations. They've been left behind for some time. We have to bring them on board in terms of their participation in the economic activities that we are working on. And we have a few highlights that we pride ourselves with. The past financial year, we had 7 women-owned suppliers that were enrolled in a program. And I must say that we didn't just enroll them in the program for training them on business, but they got contracts with Safcol, multi-year contracts, and they created and sustained more than 1,600 jobs. For us, we have to continue doing those kind of work so that we can continue having a positive impact. We also want to ensure that there's food security. We have land and we have communities neighboring the operations. So the partnership that we have with the communities is to say, let's work the land so that there can be food security. And that is working really well. And I would like to just highlight a few of the achievements the past financial year. In terms of environment, our climate change strategy and just transition plan is implemented. We want to contribute to this big project that the world so much needs in terms of the reversal of the negative impact of climate change. I mentioned earlier that we got fully certified for the 25th time in June. And our land claims project is working so well. We signed 2 MOUs with community partners, and we have 13 social compacts in place as we speak. And we also signed 1 land lease agreement with a land claimant that successfully claimed the land, and they decided we are the partner of choice. So now, after signing the agreement, we have to include them in the downstream value chain, in the processing part, in the economic beneficiation of what comes of the plantations. And in terms of communities, we do a lot. We created 106 job opportunities and the 13 agroforestry projects that we are happy of, that we are contributing to food security. In terms of transformation, we did very well as well. I've touched on the areas that we did very well, the creation of jobs and creating opportunities for women-owned companies to participate, Black women-owned companies to participate in the company. And we spent on ESD over 75 million rands, which is really a good move for the company. Because if we don't participate in transformation, we are going to have problems in the long term. Customers, lastly, are key. For us to succeed, we need to have customers, and they must be happy for sustainability of Safcol as a going concern. The financial performance, I'll go through it, and the CFO will come in if I don't do justice to the numbers. We are happy to report, Chair, that the past financial year, our revenue increased by 33%. We're working hard to maintain the growth in the top line, and that will come from mostly if we beneficiate the product, because the logs can only go to a certain ceiling unless we increase the price or increase the volume. And I'm happy to say that our operating profit, which shows the profit coming of the operations, increased from 40 million rands to 387 million rands. And for us, that's a sign that we are moving in the right direction, and our EBITDA will be evidence to that, that in terms of profitability, it's not just an accounting profitability, but we are moving operationally in the right direction. And profit after tax as well, we improved from a loss of 45 million rands the previous financial year to a profit of 84 million rands in financial year 2022. And we are happy as well to report that our return on equity improved from a negative 1.7% to a 2.7%. So overall, it says we have to continue doing the right things for us to deliver better results from these ones that we are delivering now. And this talks to the table, the graph on the right. The blue part shows the revenue coming from logs. What we want is that should continue growing, but the revenue coming from non-logs, which is the amber orange part, should grow much higher, so that we can start realizing real value-adding returns. And in terms of the position, the bio asset improved. Our asset value increased to 4 billion rands. We are happy about that, which we have to continue working on. Our cash increased from the previous year by 22% to 409 at the end of March 2022. And accounts receivables, we improved as well. We're getting our money. And accounts payables, we pay early as well. And we also were able to pay a dividend this past financial year, which we would like to continue doing, to pay a dividend and to be able to continue doing the right things that a successful company has to do. And Chair, if I can quickly talk to irregular expenditure, because it's been for us, it's been a worrying factor. Many years ago, we had irregular expenditure that was at unacceptable levels. And we made a decision that we are going to drop that towards zero, which we are still on that project of ours. But this past financial year, we dropped the irregular expenditure from about 9 million last year to just under 1 million this past financial year. And 59 million was contracts that are coming from prior years that are slowly coming to an end. So we want that under 1 million to go towards zero. And we are busy with the determination test for the condemnation. We'd like to clean up our irregular expenditure database so that we're working on a clean slate in terms of irregular expenditure. In terms of audit, Chair, we would like to just report that in terms of AGSA's audit opinion, we received an unqualified audit opinion, which we are happy with. We have to continue doing that. And that says to us, all businesses in Safcol all received unqualified audit opinion. We received our FSC certificate for the 25th year, and that which makes us the oldest certified forestry company in Africa. And we are celebrating that with the industry because it's a milestone for us. And we are also happy to report that our BBBE level, we dropped it from level 4 the prior year to level 2 this past financial year. And we hope to move towards level 1, with more effort. The NOSA audit, we did well at 87. The 13% will work towards it so that we can move towards the 100%. And in terms of managing anti-corruption in the company, 100% of forensic reports recommendations were implemented. Chair, in closing, I thought, as we report on good performance, we should highlight our challenges that we are working on daily basis to eliminate. The first one is access to more forestable land so that we can grow the business. That we are engaging with Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. We are engaging the communities, those that have successfully claimed their land. And we are also talking to municipalities so that they can allow us to manage the asset for a broader beneficiation or benefit. And aging infrastructure, which it's a historical issue. We are currently investing the money that we're making, we're investing in modernizing our infrastructure. For us to be a competitive company, we have to have modern infrastructure. That includes our sawmilling asset in Timberdola. That includes our ERP system that we have to modernize so that we can work better. That talks to our harvesting equipment. We have to modernize our harvesting equipment so that we can minimize injuries and the likelihood of death in our plantations. Timber theft is a problem in the industry. We are working on it. We have a two-pronged approach on this one. We are working with law enforcement that is combating timber theft. We're partnering with law enforcement, appointing security companies to help us. But the other part is us working with communities, that communities should understand that the asset is important for, not for Safcol alone, but for the community. The protection of the asset is a benefit to the community. So communities should work with us so that they can continue deriving economic benefit from for a well-managed plantation. Procurement processes at times give us a bit of a challenge, especially when it comes to strategic projects. Takes longer than normal. It makes us a bit uncompetitive if we have to compete with private sector. But obviously the controls are important, that we make sure that every step we manage in terms of control of how we do things. Everything should be done correctly, but we must be able to be competitive at the same time. The last one, Chair, is the minority shareholding we are holding. We are under pressure from the companies that are managing these companies, that we are competing with them and we own shares in them, whilst we are just holding shares for communities. So we're really working hard to ensure that we can transfer the shares to the rightful communities. Chair, thank you. This brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. I hope I'm audible. Now unless if there is any other person from your side who would like to say something, either the chair or any other one, before I give to the members. Nobody from your side, CEO.
Chair, I thought the CFO would come in to say a few words about the financial performance.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. Good morning to Deputy Minister and the honourable members. The CEO represented the finance team very well, so thank you for that, CEO. What we have to recognise is that FY22 was really an exceptional year. And the first question that comes up is we want to try and make that the benchmark. We want to try and keep it sustainable. And in doing that, we unpack the nature of that good performance from a finance side. And some of it, a lot of it actually, that contributed to the bottom line on the performance originated from our fair valuation of our biological asset. And that is something that was the function of the fact that we could reduce our discount rate. And that speaks to the risk that the industry and the banks put on our equity and also on our debt. And they have finally started to recognize the fact that we are not a high risk entity per se, just because we're in the SOC stable. They actually, there's a recognition of the improvement that we've seen over the last number of years and the strength of the balance sheet that we bring to the table. So that is something that contributed very positively to the fair valuation of the biological asset, and therefore the very big gain that we had on our income statement. So it's not necessarily an event that would be repeated to the same extent in every following year, but we will definitely continue to identify the levers that we can pull to make sure that we reach our budgeted target and that we try and surpass that in every single year. So I think I'll definitely take any questions from the committee on the financial performance, but in essence, I think it was well communicated and we are moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CFO. Honorable members, that is the presentation from Safcol. Let me continue with my list, start with my list, as I always do. The first person to engage this presentation is Honorable Chabalala. Honorable Chabalala.
Good morning, Chairperson. Thank you so much. I thought you were noting. Chair, let me welcome the presentation and greet members of Parliament on the platform, including the Safcol delegation led by the Deputy Minister. Firstly, Chair, I want to, perhaps we need to acknowledge that's something that is very good that is coming out from this entity. And we want to say, Deputy Minister, this is one entity that gives us hope that indeed things can always be turned around. I'm asking the DM a question around the specifically the fact that the board chairperson of this entity has now been moved to head ESCOM, which is very important. And we think that that shows that indeed the person has got the requisite requirements, the skills that we need, and we hope that he will do a good job because ESCOM is in trouble. However, that should not, that should not put Safcol into trouble necessarily. So I want to ask Deputy Minister, who is now, who is the acting Safcol board chair, if we have any, and what are the plans to ensure that whoever that fills that space is a person of who is qualified, but a person who will continue to make sure that this entity is continuously performing well. Let me go to the financial performance. Chair, we acknowledge that this entity also submitted its annual financial statements report to Parliament, which is very good for 21-22 financial year, but also to congratulate them to having had received the unqualified audit opinion and with no emphasis of matter. This is a step in the right direction, and we believe that indeed, even though there was COVID-19 last financial year, that really implicated on its future. However, the performance on the cash flows has been raised by the Auditor General, and further findings being last year, the last financial year, on issues of expenditure management and annual financial statement. Hence, I'm coming to the financial person for them to be in a position to really report that what is it that we're going to do for consequence management on the matter, on the monitoring processes and things that are not implemented, including the issue of the achievement on the targets that you would have said. If you check your 21-22 financial year, you had achieved your 86%. And as much as we acknowledge that, but we want to understand that what are you going to do to ensure that you also achieve more than that? Because when you plan and you target for yourself, you should be able to achieve those ones. And it might be part of it, the shareholder compacts and so forth, what has been done around that matter. But also aligning that question, Chairperson, on the issue of financial performance, is that, Safcol at this point, the revenue increased by 33%, and that's the return on equity. Also, it improved by 1.4% to 2.7%. And it shows indeed the improvement in the operations. The profit after tax for the year amounted to 83.6 million. What are we going to do to ensure that indeed we up our game and we ensure that the matters that are showing insofar as the improvement on your equity also goes up? Second part is that I think the CEO did indicate that there is 57% of your land on previous reports. In fact, the department, and this one I'm going to ask the Department of Public Enterprise, the person responsible for the part of agriculture and so forth. You know, in your report, Public Enterprise, you indicated that 57% of the land of Safcol, it's subject to land claims. And the company has put in place necessarily processes to govern the way in which they address the issue affecting the land claims of the land under Safcol control. So we want to understand what is it that really the processes that you've put in place to ensure that you're addressing this issue affecting the land claims on Safcol. So I want to understand that committee that you also had with other departments and how much it's assisting you to ensure that we get this entity out of the trouble of land claims. The matter of theft, there's always theft that really threatens the Safcol. So want to understand what is it that you're doing about that. Let me get to the last point, Chair. You did say that we must not take long because we have MTBPS to attend to. I will say on the presentation, having had listened, some experts on climate change, they necessarily argue that cutting of trees leads to deforestation, which in turn contributes to climate change. You know, considering that Safcol's revenue depends on the sale of logs and the cutting of these trees allegedly contribute to climate change, how will Safcol diversify its production away from logs since the country is transitioning to a green economy? Or perhaps, if I may to put it differently, how will Safcol mitigate the contribution of the cutting of trees to climate change in order to remain sustainable in the transition to a green economy? So I just want you to, if you can just really tell us how is it that you are able to going to do with this, because there's lots of things that are transforming, so we need to be aware of that. But from where I'm at, I'm quite comfortable and I'm happy with this entity. It has given us hope that in all our entities or SOEs that we're overseeing, this is one entity that we can pride ourselves with, and we want to ensure as Parliament that we support this entity. And we check in our committee, we did say that we want to go to the head office so that we can interact with Safcol more. Parliament should support Safcol more. So I want to thank the leadership of and the management of Safcol, also the CEO, that shows that indeed you have your issues from the thumbs of your hands. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Shabalala. Honorable Kachalia.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for this positive update. Please, can we be provided with an update on the outstanding land claims? More so, can we have an analysis of how these claims would potentially impact the future profitability of the one business of the 7 SOEs under our aegis that is performing well and not battling huge losses and insolvency, and in fact delivering a profit? I commend the profitability and performance that has led to an 84 million profit for the year on top of a solid EBITDA. But I need to point out, by comparison, and the comparison is there if not 100%, that SAPI's third quarter results show a profitability of $199 million. That's equal to 3.5 billion rands in the same sector. Now, in view of Safcol's sound footprint and bearing in mind SAPI's stellar success in the same sector and the talk we've heard for a fair period of time about diversification and expansion by Safcol, does Safcol have any specific plans for diversification and expansion that can be shared with this committee? And are there any plans to corporatize Safcol which will enable this? And finally, has the department assessed and investigated what Safcol is doing right in respect of governance, culture, and operations that other SOEs that are not performing, and I mean not with a capital N-O-T, can learn? And what are the learnings from these that can be shared with this committee? I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kashalia. Honorable Maotwe, Stroke, Honorable Komani. No Honorable Maotwe, no Honorable Komani. Okay. No Honorable Buthelezi. Then let's go to Honorable Piri. Honorable Piri. No Honorable Piri here. Okay. Honorable Kumede.
Thank you, Chair, and greetings to members and everyone on the platform. One welcomes the report as presented. Chair, I want to say this is a very sterling performance. You know, if all presentations and performances of our SOEs, you know, they give us a less headache as this one, I think all of us were going to leave Parliament having gained some kgs. But Chair, let me say, it's so positive that you find an organization that even during COVID, many of the organizations during COVID, many of them collapsed. But this one, which in fact is very uncommon, grew by 12%. I think that's commendable. In fact, you know, and we've dealt with SOEs. It has always been a struggle when it comes to SHC, the shareholding combat. Many others are struggling. One appreciates the model that they come up with, that one of engaging, fighting a community rather, fighting the theft and criminal activities. You know, Chair, you take an organization from being a qualified entity for 2 consecutive years, and you take it to unqualified. You know, it shows a very good progress for the organization. The strategies, in fact, they've used and the approaches were very, very much correct. And I like as well the way they grew with the spending and the introduction of programs when they've got access, the access rather in their purse. The introduction of medical aid. I think that's the main thing that many of the workers would prefer in a situation of this nature. Yes, you convert the losses into profits, the 45 from 45 to 84, and you convert as well the operating, you increase the operating profits from 40 to 387. I don't know how much it's, if you can want to convert that into percentages. I think it was going to come to 300 and something percent. Chair, that's very serious. You know, if we had an opportunity, I agree. with Honorable Shabalala that it's an organization that in fact needs to be visited and be encouraged, that in fact they don't lose track. And I want to say to DPE, you've got a very serious contender. You have been the only one that's getting perhaps at all times unqualified. But now it looks as if it's the Safcol is very determined to make sure that he plays the ball accordingly. Chair, I remember last time that Safcol had a hope that one day they wanted to expand. They want to expand the business and go offshore and go ashore. And I'm not sure whether that has been put aside or is it still there. The serious nature of what they are doing, I'm tempted, I'm directing this to DM. I'm tempted, Chair, to suggest that is it possible within the environment that the SOE forum be formulated so that all these experiences and some of the things that they've managed to take Safcol from point A to point C, can it be shared with many other SOEs? And you know, I'll be interested, how did they do it? I know that it's a very long process. How did they do it? And some of the lessons learned along the way, what did they cut out of some of the processes that they were involved in? My only worry, Chair, could be will Safcol be in a position to sustain this performance? If ever they can do it, in fact, what could they identify perhaps as the challenge that could be an obstacle in their journey? You know, Chair, if I was Judith, I was going to say, long live Safcol. But if I'm so if I'm so easy, I was going to say, ooh, shame. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much. But it's a good performance. Please keep it up. We all appreciate you. Make us proud. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Kumede. Honorable Isaac.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues and members of Safcol. Thank you for the opportunity. Chairperson, here, in the interest of not being repetitive, I will be brief. There's mention of the onerous public procurement process. Perhaps, you know, we need to understand or get a little bit more transparent detail on these onerous public procurement processes. That's the one I'd like to raise. There was, of course, the issue of the timber theft that is ongoing. Honorable Shabalala, I think, also referred to that. And then, Chairperson, as regards the human capital, they speak of, in the report, return on investment increased from 10% to 94%. Now, I mean, this is remarkable, and it's a good story to tell, sure. But I'd like to just understand and get a somewhat simplified detail on that return on investment on human capital having increased in a short space of time from 10 to 94%. Chairperson, furthermore, there's mention of the irregular expenditure having been reduced by 48%, down to 60 million rand. Now, 60 million rand is still a lot of money in terms of irregular expenditure. So it's one thing to say that irregular expenditure is down by 48%, but it's down to 60 million rand. So in my opinion, the 60 million rand of irregular expenditure still remains high for an institution that has produced, in my opinion, a very decent report. But I'd need to understand why are we just blowing 60 million rand on irregular expenditure if Safcol has got a pretty positive presentation. And then finally, Chairperson, there's mention of the forensic reports that have been implemented. I'd like to also perhaps just get some light on the latest update on these forensic reports that have been implemented. Yes, Chairperson, I'll stop there for now. Thank you again.
Thank you, Honorable Isaac, followed by Honorable Mkwanaza. Honorable Mkwanaza.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I've been largely covered by honorable members, but I also want to appreciate the report and appreciate the progress and appreciate the management of Safcol. But Chair, I just want to find out on the three issues, if they can talk to the progress, progress on the timber dollar investment project, if they can highlight the progress there. Secondly, Chair, for me, one of the mandates of the SOEs is to deal with the issue of skills development and the issue of employment. I want to check their female employees target and the progress there together with people living with disability. Thirdly, Chair, I also want to check what is their plan on the issues raised by AG in the last financial year, especially the review and monitoring of compliance on financial performance, financial and performance management. Lastly, maybe from the Deputy Minister, we appreciate Deputy Minister, the work that you are doing there. But I want to check, are there any lessons that you can share and strategies that you can take from Safcol to other SOEs? But Chair, I want to support Honorable Gumede on the lighter note of woo shame. Thank you very much.
Okay. Honorable Dlamini. Thank you, Honorable Kwanazi. Honorable Dlamini. Honorable Dlamini.
Thanks, Chair, and morning, colleagues. I think the report is very promising. One must just comment Safcol on the good job that they're doing. And I would also like to get an understanding on the land claims and how that affects the business going forward. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable. Is Honorable Malinga on the platform? Honorable Malinga? Oh, Honorable Malinga is not here. Well, I think that's the end of my list, honorable members. Deputy Minister, I think one has to also agree with the rest of the members that the job well done. This is indeed a breath of fresh air and a positive presentation we have not received from quite a while as this Public Enterprise Portfolio Committee. This proves that the state-owned entities are not inherently inefficient, ineffective, and corrupt as some would want us to believe. The state is capable of running public entities and be profitable for the benefit of the broader South African society, not just a small minority, but because there's a difference between a private entity and a public entity. A public entity is there for everybody to benefit, unlike a private entity, which is that an accumulation of an individual. In this instance, it's proven by Safcol as an example that a state, a public entity, can be ran in a profitable manner, and so that everybody can have an access to that profit. Hence, we must be positive about the turning around of Eskom, Transnet, including DNED, and any other state entities that is struggling. If we can learn from what Safcon has gone through and try to do, and we learn all those positive things that has happened there, perhaps that could benefit us as a nation, including helping us to turn around those entities that are undergoing serious problem. The reality of the situation is that privatization is not a solution to the problems that are confronting those entities. Otherwise, we'll be playing in the hands of the same people who contributed, because some contribute to this problem, create this problem in these entities. After that, they jump and go on to be on the other side in those private entities that contributed to the demise of that particular entity. Therefore, in that those short words, Deputy Minister, we appreciate the contribution that you have as a department, because this entity has been having these unqualified audit outcomes for 3 consecutive terms. That shows that there is an improvement in terms of enough profit. Every year, every financial year, we've got an increase in profit at the Safcol. And that is very important, especially when you talk about a public entity, because that's where the society at large is supposed to benefit. The poor, they are benefiting in those profits, are not just profits for accumulation for the benefit of one particular person. Therefore, in that context, therefore, we need to work very hard so that we also create profit in other struggling entities while they are still in the hands of the state. Thank you. CEO, or perhaps the Deputy Minister, if you want to start, and then you give them as you used to. Deputy Minister?
Chairperson, my hand has been up before you give to the Deputy Minister.
For what good reason? Because I did give you time to speak. Did you leave anything?
Super, Chairperson. Yes, no, I just wanted to mention briefly, and with absolute respect to you, Chairperson, but I think many of the comments that you have made overall, as regards state-owned enterprises, etc., I think these comments are your personal opinions as such, and not necessarily the opinion of the committee as a whole. And I just wanted to mention that and put it on record with due respect. Thank you, Chair.
No, you're right, excluding DA, of course. The majority of the members of this committee, who have been chairing this committee since, I am 100% sure that the majority of this committee would love entities to be profitable and also to remain at the head of the state. That is no question. Over to you, Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. How I wish the minister was here in person, so as to hear the encouraging comments that the honorable committee members have made virtually across the political spectrum of the composition of the committee. We tend to be in the space where criticism all around dominates our presence. And I think this positive appreciation of what is taking place in one of the entities in my mind should have been received by the minister in person. I will, however, communicate this and of course hope he will find joy in knowing that something good though is happening from one of the entities. Chair, in respect of the chairperson of the board, an announcement I'm sure will be made very soon, because there must be stability of the board, as has been the case all along. There must be secured continuity as well, without really venturing in the domain of the minister, so to speak. I think perhaps looking from within the members of the board, perhaps the chairpersons of some of the board committees, but of course also looking at augmenting the board by drawing some of the expertise relevant to the sector, but also relevant to the immediate challenges that constitute the environment, would be one of the considerations. It could be that there will be a period in which there could be an appointed acting person, which should be very short, so that finality is reached on the matter. I wish that we come back to the committee, as I indicated earlier, on the matter, so as to be concise, so we don't lose the momentum that is there. Chair, with your permission, I was going to request from within DPE, because there are matters that are specific. I would like Keneilwe to immediately come just to talk about the issue of land claims, what has been obtaining there, as well as the issues to do with climate change, to the extent we could comment on that. Lastly, Chair, on my part, I really welcome the invitation that a number of honorable members have made to say what lessons can be made out of this success story, which can be hopefully transmitted to the other entities. Much as we could be anecdotal now in pointing to some of perhaps what could be the positive factors, I was going to request that again, we take this back so that we do a deep dive into what possibly are the elements of this good story, what has helped to, so that we are comprehensive in doing that. And I think some of the proposals, like a forum in which all the state-owned companies could meet, share lessons, and good stories like these can be impacted to the broader community of state-owned entities. I'm sure it's something that we would be very much willing to look into. This SOE Council could as well be another avenue through which such lessons could be shared, but within the family, within public enterprises, it's a matter that surely we will take it off, because the minister from time to time would have meetings with the boards together at times. I'm sure we may want to institutionalize this sharing from each other as to how best we. So in essence, I'm requesting that instead of doing it now, we come back to the committee, having afforded ourselves time to interrogate in a consultative manner what would be those elements. I'm sure also the board will input in that, the entity and our teams that do oversight over this, so that we bring a comprehensive report from which we could take the other entities along insofar as that. So, Chair, I was going to then request that the department to come in, after which then the CEO and team, I'm sure also some of the board members may want to take some of the issues, particularly to do with reinvestment, the issues to do with diversification, the issues to do with how this, in the view of the board, is to be sustained, this positive performance, just for the assurance of the committee. So, Chair, just those two requests. Can Kinele come in, and then we hand back to the board to then make their comments and deal with the latter part of the questions.
Good morning, DM and honorable members. Thank you, DM. And on the matter of land claims, the department, together with Department of Forestry and Land Reform, led by the Land Reform Department, have worked extensively on the matter of land claims. However, the delays are being held back by the land reform. In the last year, what the department has done is that with the collective of the others, 3 land claims in Venda area have been settled. However, they haven't been transferred yet to the owners. So the process is not within our capacity or the Safcol. It is a delay on, and it has a negative impact on Safcol. So what happened is that we have collectively again trying to meet or met with the Land Claims Commission to determine how we can resolve or speed up the process. In the coming week, we agreed with Forestry Department that this matter should be included in the Forestry Master Plan, which is now included, and it will be sped up in the next financial year. So we'll give the committee an update in the next meeting of what the Forestry Master Plan is doing in the process of trying to speed up the land claims resolution. On the cutting down of trees, the Safcol as a commercial forestry company, it is not having a negative impact in climate change. However, it's positively contributing by planting forestry plantations. At the moment, Safcol is one of the highest or lowest companies that are affecting the climate change, based on the fact that they are not vertically integrated fully like the others, and they are semi-fully planted their plantations with only less than 3% of their areas unplanted. So plantation forest in South Africa, it's not negatively affecting climate change, because what they harvest, they replant. Unlike the indigenous forest, that is where we can say that should there be anything that is negatively affecting, it's when we are, as the forestry sector, harvesting the indigenous forest. I am not sure, DM, if I've covered all what I needed to answer.
Thank you, Kinele. Can we then hand over to the CEO and the board members, if acting chair? I don't know if there's any comments from the board, and then the CEO to complete the rest.
Thanks, DM. I'll hand over to the CEO, but perhaps I'd like to just talk about our strategy, especially around the issue of diversification. So our strategy had 3 phases to it. When this current board started about 4 years ago, the first phase was around stabilizing the entity and turning around the years of qualifications in terms of audit, amongst other things, and wrapping up some of the issues around consequence management. The second phase was to see how we could expand using our current base. And the third phase was to see how we can expand into other areas that we view as more value-adding areas. That's where our 50-50 strategy would come in. So currently we are probably about 80% a log business and 20% is your lumber. So we want to turn that around into 50% logs and more 50% increasing the 20 to 50% into value-added products, because that is where we can improve the quality of our revenue and we can compete better with the likes of, I think one of the members mentioned SAPI as an example. SAPI beneficiates way more than we would, and that's where we see the value and the growth. The challenges there are around the money that you would need to be able to upgrade the facilities, particularly timber dollar, to be able to get more value out of our products. But we have moved some steps in terms of that. That business plan has been finalized. We are in the implementation phase. We've gotten positive feedback around the fundraising thereof. And I think with these results, we'll be in a better position to be able to get outside capital to support a lot of the CapEx that we would need to further expand and to further diversify our offering. I think I'll hand over to the CEO now with that context and to the rest of the members of EXCO. We do have some chairpersons that are attending. Ms. Yawich, if you want to add maybe on some of the issues around climate change, you're more than welcome to, but I just wanted to provide that context before I can hand over. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I thought Ms. Zawish would come in on climate change, because it's a very important subject.
Okay, morning, honourable members and Deputy Minister and CEO. CEO, if it's okay, should I quickly comment?
Yes,
Yes,
thank
please.
you, Mr.
Okay,
Yawish,
thank you. So I think on the climate change, issue, there is significant potential, in fact, for Safcol to be an organization in our country that contributes to the sequestration and the reduction of emissions through the ability of trees to, in fact, function as carbon sinks. And in the context of the carbon tax and the fact that the carbon tax makes provision for companies to be able to offset their emissions through investing in activities that reduce emissions, I think that in actual fact, there is a significant opportunity for Safcol to contribute towards addressing climate change. So I think that we are in the fairly early stages of being able to have an offset and carbon market within the country, but I think that that would provide a significant opportunity for Safcol. Having said that, I think that it is important that we do, as a company, keep abreast of the latest climate science, and in particular, the long-term scientific projections around the impacts of climate change, and that we are very well prepared to be resilient to the impacts of issues related to, in particular, fire and drought. And that in the way that we expand our forests and in the way that we climate-proof our infrastructure, that we are seeking ways to be able to minimize potential damage. So I think that there are risks, but there are also significant opportunities. And as the CEO has said, the fact that this is in a sense a revolving enterprise where, yes, you cut down trees, but you also plant them, it needs to be done in a way that we ensure that there is no net deficit or no net increase in relation to emissions. So thank you very much, honourable members, on that.
Thank you, Ms. Yawich. Honourable Chair, I think I can attempt to answer some questions, and if I need my colleagues to come in, I'll indicate. Maybe starting first from Honourable Chabalala's question regarding consequence management, which was highlighted in AG's report, that the implementation of consequence management was not visible. I think this element talks to the irregular expenditure that that we saw on the report. We are in the process of identifying people who were responsible for irregular expenditure. We had appointed an external company because it has to be an independent body that does that, not us. So we appointed a company that did that work for us, and it disappeared during COVID, and we had to go back to the market to source a new company to do this work for us. But I'm happy to report that the company has reported, we received a report. We are busy with the report now. The next phase for us is those that have been identified as responsible for irregular expenditure. Then we follow the discipline or the consequence management process, so that we should be able to, when we report back to the committee, to say this element has been concluded, so it cannot appear again on AG's report. Then the other question from Honorable Chalala was around the shareholder compact, that 86% is not good enough. 100% is what we should aim for. We agree 100% that 100% should be what we are moving towards, even though we know that if we reach 100%, then the stretch target will come in and then the target keeps moving. But we are happy to stretch. And if I can say, mainly the areas that we didn't perform well around the strategic projects, that is implementation of strategic projects. And that I think the CFO will come in terms of the onerous procurement process. I think the CFO, if we can prepare to come in on that one when I'm done, because this is the area which is going to give us the future Safcol, which should be a multi-billion rands company. If we don't implement these strategic projects, we are going to continue being a small company that we are today, which for us is not a true reflection of the potential of Safcol. But we are working very hard to move to 100%. And then the next question from Honorable Chabalala was around land claims and climate change. I think those two have been covered. Honorable Kachalia, you spoke about the outstanding land claims. I think that has been covered by Ms. Mabena. And the next other question, Honorable Kachalia, was around Safcol profitability. We are profitable, and the question is, why aren't we comparative, or why don't we compare favorably with SAPI and the guys? I think the acting chair has addressed that you get more profits out of downstream or value-adding products. Logs don't give you good margins. So our business is more leaning towards the 80% on logs. So they don't give us good margins. If we were 80% beneficiating, would be competing favorably with SAPI and the guys. But we are working very hard on the 50-50 strategy to get there. And Honorable Gumeta, your question on offshore growth, that we were working on offshore growth looking into the SADC region, and we thought maybe let's hold that part of the strategy. Let's focus on stabilizing the business, because if we are going to grow on a shaky foundation, this house of ours would be bound to collapse. So the fact that now we have stabilized the business, we can grow, and we are going to grow in the country, make sure that our business in South Africa is solid. We support our industry and we support transformation. And then we can extend in terms of growth to the targeted SADC region forestry opportunities. So it's not completely off. We are going to go back to it. And Honorable Isaac, your question was around onerous public procurement process. I think that I'll leave to the CFO to talk through that. What impact does it have to us and what does it mean? And then you asked the question around timber theft. Timber theft is a problem not only for Safcol, but for the industry. But we were working together with industry to eliminate it completely from forestry. And we are working together with law enforcement. We spend a lot of money on security. And the other part that we are doing is to work with communities. That's because those are the people that are closer to the operations, and they know, they have the intelligence on who are involved in timber theft. So we are working with communities that they benefit from the forestry operations so that they can protect the asset. Hopefully the strategy will help us to eliminate timber theft completely. It's a big challenge for us. And the next question was around return on investment, that if we can explain it, especially on human capital. So I'll leave that to the CFO to talk through that. How do we derive returns coming off improved performance of employees? And the next question was around irregular expenditure. That is down to 60 million. Maybe I can explain what that figure meant. The 60 million that we are posting, or that we have or reported on for the financial year 2022, it talks to the total value for irregular expenditure for that year, of which 59 million is coming from historical activities that we are rooting out. And just under 1 million was incurred the past financial year. So we incurred under R1 million during the financial year 2022 on irregular expenditure. Our drive is to zero it. We know it's very difficult, but we are moving towards a zero irregular expenditure. And then the next question was around forensic reports. I think that one, I'll leave that question to executive responsible for internal audit, chief audit executive, to give an answer to that one. Honorable Kwanazi, the timber dollar investment, we agree 100%. This has been a project that we had wanted to have realized about 2 years ago. But we haven't been able to move faster than we had wanted. It's been a frustration to us. If there's any area of this business that frustrated us, it's the speed at which this project is moving. But at the moment, we are at a point where we have a business case that funding institutions are happy to finance. So what we are going to do, we are going to implement a bioenergy plant, what you call the CHP, and that will supply electricity and heat to the mill so that we don't depend on expensive and unstable power supply, and also the heat that we need. And you will use our residue that comes from the the forest and from the mill to feed into the CHP. And this makes the business case for timber dollars so good. So we are now working on those two to make sure that the CHP is implemented and then the timber dollar project kicks in. We are currently busy with the appointment of a company to manage the implementation or the investment project. And the other question from Honorable Mkonazi was around the findings by AG, historical findings. We have addressed most of the findings from AG. I think the only findings that we still have to deal with, there are two findings. One is around the financial statements, because we are using at times using manual work, manual processes. We have some problems, and that we are dealing with because we are implementing a new ERP system that will help us automate our processes. And the other findings were around ICT. Those we are eliminating. We now have a structure in ICT that's dealing with all the findings so that we can have a stable ICT environment. Honorable Dlamini, I think the question was more around land claims. How do they affect the business? I think Ms. Mabena did answer that one, that we worry about land claims because if they are not concluded, there's an element of uncertainty, even though we work with communities in anticipation of these land claims going through. We work very well with them, but there's an uncertainty of, because we know there's competing interests. We can't be thinking that we are the only ones who want to partner with communities. There are other companies out there who would want to be in the same space as us. I think, Honorable Chair, I think those are the questions I picked up. If the CFO can come in on those that I didn't answer, and then if there's anything else I've missed, my colleagues can come in. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, CFO. I mean, CFO.
Thank you, CEO, and thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll just quickly touch on the more financial aspects that the CEO alluded to. Firstly, in response to Honorable Chabalala, I think there was a question, how are we going to ensure that we up our game on the ROE? We've had very good performance, but how are we going to keep that going? So what we use internally, without going into too much detail, we have a simple DuPont analysis. So we break the return on equity down in its three key drivers. That is the net profit margin, the asset efficiency, and then leverage. So we constantly, every month, we monitor this. Every quarter, we report to the board on this to see which measures we need to tweak to ensure that we get as close as possible to our budgeted ROE and even exceed that. So there's an active process behind the scenes where we try to up our game constantly by being more agile and a bit more reactive to the trends that we're seeing in those three elements. On Honorable Kashalia's comment regarding SAPI, and CEO already touched on that. We used to, we still include SAPI as a benchmark, but when we looked at the nature of the business closer, we found that another listed entity, York Timbers, is actually more on par with us because SAPI has a much more a bigger global footprint than us, and for example, York. So we definitely still strive to achieve the kind of results that SAPI has, and that's why we've started the export strategy. We've started the plans around diversification of revenue. But at the end of the day, for near-term kind of comparison, we tend to look at York Timbers and benchmark against that with SAPI way up there, looking at where we want to end up. So those points are valid and definitely taken, but we do action that. On Honorable Gumede's comment about the sustainability of this great result, I think I touched on it in my introduction, is that we recognize that some elements of this good performance on the income statement came from events like the fair valuation of the biological asset that cannot necessarily be repeated to that extent every single year. but we are actively monitoring our costs, making sure that costs follow income, that we do not exceed the budgets, that if any cost is not going to result in additional income, we curtail that and want to minimize that to the lowest level. So through that, I believe that we will remain sustainably profitable. We will hopefully still meet our budget and even exceed that for the FY23 year even. But it's something that that requires a concerted effort throughout the company, and we try to drive that culture change and that buy-in at all levels of employees in the company. In response to Honourable Essek's comment around the onerous procurement process, yes, it's a fine balance between the compliance, which you can obviously see had a very good impact on our reduction in irregular expenditure. And CEO explained now that actually in the FY22 year, only 1 million rand was added to that. The 59 million we had no control over. It was a multi-year contract that was found irregular in previous years, and it had to run its course. But in the procurement process, we have a lot of compliance now, which is great. But there's also an element of fear in some of the committees that play a part in this big process. So the principles of the process is very good, but people are sometimes scared of the consequence management to commit to something or to move forward with agility and responsiveness. So compared to private sector where you can quickly phone up 5 different quotes, take the best one, we obviously have to look at the slightly longer process. We need to make sure that we can demonstrate compliance with a lot more elements than some of our listed competitors can. We are at the same time not saying that PFMA is our problem. We want to try and see how can we optimize what we put in the scope of this kind of procurement. And CEO touched on some things like the triple Ps. We are trying to put together a policy that could specifically govern those, that we don't follow an unnecessarily onerous process to try and fit the triple Ps into a supply chain process, for example. We are looking at identifying and ring-fencing specialized items that we might go a quicker route, because we know in our industry there are very few players in some of the bigger equipment suppliers. So if we internally can optimize the scope of our policy and the related process and procedure, then we will continue to try and optimize the process as a whole. But at this stage, it is kind of keeping us back if we compare it to the agility that some of the listed companies have. But it's something that we are looking for solutions internally, and it's a dynamic process. We're continuously working on it. On the human capital return on investment that went up from 10% to 94%, it's actually a very simple metric that we use to once again benchmark and also track our own performance. So what we do is we take our operating profit and divide it by our employee cost. So we're saying for every rand invested in employee cost, how much of that resulted in a rand coming out of operating profit? So when we look at 94%, which is almost 100, it means, for example, in FY22, we spent about 400 million on employee costs, and that resulted in an operating profit of just under 400 million. So we benchmark that, as I say, and for interest's sake, York's one is actually at 57% with their latest results. So it's something that we want to make sure that the employees also see how they are contributing to that bottom line. And it's something that I think there is a big element of reliance on the top line, but everyone in the big chain and the culture of Safcol needs to buy into that and support it. But ultimately, that is the simple benchmark that we use and we track and compare to others. Just lastly then, on Honourable Mokgonazi's comment on the AG findings, as CEO mentioned, we have put in place, driven by finance, we now keep an action list, and 90% of all findings from the audit that concluded a few months ago have already been closed. So we've improved the process. We have proceeded with actions like consequence management warnings, improvements around that. So now 10% of that remains. Most of those actually relate to annual kind of processes, so we can only actually close that finding at the end of the financial year. And the other big one on non-compliance from AG's side that they flagged is the fact that consequence management has not taken place for the irregular expenditure. We did put a policy in place in the FY22 year, so we have a new consequence management policy that was approved. And as we now go through the final stages of implementing this determination test that was concluded literally a few weeks ago, we will be in a position, as the CE mentioned, to offer some of those amounts for condonation and reduce our overall balance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I think we can return then to the Honorable Chair. I think the questions have been dealt with. Thank you very much. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Minister and your team. We, on behalf of the committee, we are happy with your report. We are happy that there is a continuation of improving the governance, the management at Safcol, and to the extent that there are fruits already that we are reaping out of that process. We hope this is not an event, but this is a continuation of improving the capacity of this entity to outstand and come up with everything that the country is expected from. On those bases, Chair, Deputy Minister, we thanking you, the entire ministry, for the good work done. The Department of Public Enterprise, of course, is central in what is happening in these entities, whether it's positive or negative. We appreciate your role. On those words, thank you so much. The meeting, honorable members, we have to release the invitees or our guests so that we look on the second part of the agenda. Can we release the Safcol?
Not before some comments are made, Chair. I'd like to just point out
I didn't give you platform.
Well, normally, Chair, there is a second bite.
No, there is no. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Please, I will plead with you to respect my ruling. I've made this at the beginning of the meeting. That's why I give all the members time based on what I've said at the beginning of the meeting. Therefore, anything else, sorry, hold on. Anything that a member would love to say, I will request that particular member to write it down. We will forward on behalf of that particular member to the necessarily people who, whether it's the minister or the CEO or the executive or the board, will do that as we normally do when members have not exhausted or received all their reports. But now, due to the time constraint, I would love to close this meeting and allow, before I close this meeting, I will allow first
on a point of order,
the members or the invitees to leave the meeting.
On a point of order, Chair.
There's no point of order.
Thank you,
You
Chair.
haven't even heard the point of order. How do you know there's no point of order?
Okay, thank you so much. Honorable members,
This is unacceptable.
Guests are leaving. I need to make this request due to the non-presence of our secretary of this committee, Mr. Tisang Muchumi. We won't be in a position to get the minutes of the previous meeting. And therefore, I will request that we leave that, we park that for the next meeting when he is present. Is that acceptable, honorable members?
Absolutely.
Yes, Chair.
Honorable Kumede?
Yes, Chair, that's accepted.
Thank you. Is there any second on that?
Zamini second.
Okay,
Yes,
Honorable
Chair.
Zamini, thank you so much. Honorable members, let us officially close this meeting. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.
What a travesty.